Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today we're going to talk about that college baseball preseason poll that just came out earlier this week. I'm also going to share with you guys a couple open book segment questions directly from you all, as well as another quick tip. So without further ado, let's get it started. All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Excited to have you on once again this week. I am pumped about what we have to talk about today. And just as I kind of left off last week with that open book segment question regarding our baseball conversations, will we have more talk of that this year? I'm going to ease it into the show, and we're going to start right here, right now, as I just mentioned at the top, with that preseason poll. So if you remember, last year's men's college World Series, all right, we had some knockdown drag out ball games in the college World Series up in Omaha. It was incredible. We had 4 ACC teams, 4 SEC teams. Obviously, both of those conferences have since changed. However, it was really cool. We had a really good brand of baseball last college World Series, and I thought it was one of the best college World Series we've had in the last couple of years. A lot of parity, and as some of you know, some of you may not know, Tennessee rose to the top and got it done. But let's talk about that grouping right there. So there was that group of 8, all right, in the College World Series. 7 out of 8 of those teams are returning as top ranked teams in the preseason polls. And a matter of fact, I think they're all ranked in the top 15. All right. Now, granted, it's a preseason poll, and that means that this is going off of judgment. Who's left, right? Who's coming in? But either way, these are educated, guesses or educated, focal points, if you will. And this is what we got, right? The only team that was in last year's College World Series that's not ranked in the top 25 this year, in the preseason at least, is Kentucky. And Kentucky kind of backdoored their way into the Men's College World Series anyway last year. So that was kind of to be expected. However, I would not be shocked if they figured it out again, as they do have a decent core of guys coming back. But let's talk about those other 7 teams there, because as I look at my notes here, the worst ranked, the worst ranked of those 7 teams is North Carolina State, the Wolfpack. All right, they're sitting at number 13. I think they're going to have a really solid pitching staff this year. I don't know how deep they're going to be necessarily. However, I think they're going to be solid surface level wise. Okay. And so hopefully, as they begin to go on and hopefully avoid injury, things like that, I think they're going to be just fine. So NC State, they should be in a good situation. Um, Another of the teams from last year's World Series kind of disappointed me a little bit. I thought they were better than they played last year, and also they kind of took a tough draw, I believe, as well, having to face, I believe, A&M early on. A&M or Tennessee, I can't remember, but this is Florida. Florida is ranked number 10 going into this season, and I think that's a fair ranking. They are, to me, a top 10 team. I might even put them in my top 7, ahead of Georgia this year, but we'll see. All right, Florida State at number 9. They're a juggernaut again. To me, I thought they should have gotten to that final series. Tennessee, Florida State, A&M, man, they I don't know, man, they were impressive. They really were. I gotta admit, and A&M is one of those squads to me that Texas A&M, that is. They're one of those squads, man. They can beat you in a lot of different ways. And I can also say the same thing about Tennessee, really, because they did. They figured it out. But, again, Florida State, we'll see how they fare this year. Another team that's ranked up there pretty high is North Carolina Tar Heels. I'm interested to see who's going to rule North Carolina this year. Will it be NC State or will it be UNC? UNC, I thought they underperformed in the College World Series also. They were fun to watch throughout the entirety of the season last year, and I did watch a lot of UNC baseball. Honestly, when I was growing up, I loved the color powder blue for whatever reason. I've always loved green. Green's my favorite color, but powder blue. So I kind of began to watch and kind of root for the Tar Heels merely because of the color blue anyway. But my point is that I watch a lot of their baseball games. I watched them during the regionals, and they just played some good ball. I mean, they had to kind of work hard during the regionals there, but I felt like they came in to the College World Series with a lot of fire. They were amped up, and but maybe some emotional wins cost them some mental or what have you. Man, I mean, baseball is just a crazy sport, and whatnot. So I'm interested to see what UNC does. They're coming at number 6 this year in the preseason poll. Number 4, the defending champ, Tennessee. Okay, listen, they are the champs until proven otherwise. All right, and if they give us a reason to believe that they can go and repeat this thing, then I'm gonna believe it. All right, Tennessee, they're doing something big over there in Knoxville. I say over there because I live in Nashville now, so they're 3 hours east of us here in the Nashville area. I'm gonna talk about a Nashville team here in shortly, but Tennessee, man, they're a force to be reckoned with. All right. A&M coming in at number 1, just to mention them, and then UVA, Virginia. Okay, they're not to be played without. They got a top 3 ranking in the preseason. I think they could very easily be number 1 in this year's poll with who they have coming back. I think they've got the bats to figure things out. They've got a lot of depth, in my opinion, as well. So Virginia looks good. Virginia looks good. Now, here's a few other teams that are ranked in that top 10 or so that may have something to say about that. LSU being one of them. Obviously, I'm a big LSU fan. They're ranked number 3 in the country right now. In some polls, they're at number 2 here in the preseason. Again, it's just preseason, so I don't put too much stock into it. But I fully anticipate that the Tigers, the Bayou Bengals, man, they're going to figure some things out this year and hopefully be able to find their way back on top of the mountain, just like they did a couple summers ago, and punching that ticket against the Florida Gators and getting it done for the championship rings. Okay, so LSU, there's Arkansas, that's another program. The Battle of Oregon out there, Oregon and Oregon State both ranked highly here in the preseason, and then Duke's another one, as well as UGA out of Athens, Georgia. Okay, so there's some teams, man, and as you see, I see a lot of SEC action, just kind of SEC repeats, ACC as well. But Oregon State are 2 that are kind of outside those 2 conferences, and they're going to have a lot to say about it too. So I am pumped, man, to see what happens. Another sleeper school, I would say, that's ranked in the top 25. I believe. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But UC Irvine, okay, they consistently put up great athletes. Okay, they might not always win, and they don't. They had some good runs decades ago. However, they're producing a lot of great MLB talent year after year, and so I think their recruiting is really strong, and I think their development at that level out there in LA, they're doing big things. They're doing big things. So I think that they are going to hopefully maybe throw a wrench into somebody's plans as long as it's not LSU's. All right. So here's my hot take, and I don't know if I mean maybe you don't think it's a hot take, but I call it a hot take because I believe sometimes, man, anytime you have teams that are ranked but they're sitting outside the top 10 or 15, it's a little bit of a hot take to say that they can win it all. Okay. And so I'm not just saying this, I promise, because I live in Nashville now. However, I do believe that number 16 ranked Vandy, they're going to maybe make some noise in the Southeastern Conference this year. And so I would not put it past them to maybe, upset the cart rather for some of these other SEC programs. So I am very intrigued. I'm going to actually go and see the Vandy boys in person at least a couple of times, hopefully this year, since I'm right up the street from them. Support the program, but also just do a little bit of scouting for my boys out in LSU. See if I need to, send them some nuggets so that they know what to prepare for as we enter the SEC play. But so anyway, guys, that is what this early preseason action looks like. I'm excited. We are weeks barely away from getting this thing kicked off on the softball side as well as this baseball side, and it's going to be an electric season. Especially, I mean, the bats, man, on the baseball side of things, it's just they're hot. I mean, guys are coming up there and they're locked and loaded, ready to go. I've been watching and kind of, hearing the buzz about the off season that a lot of these big bats have had from last year on all of these programs that I just mentioned. And I think these boys are going to be ready to go. So anyway, that's what the preseason poll looks like for college baseball. I'm going to share one thing with you about what I have learned from my winter online training program. So, a lot of you guys may not know this, but I have an online training program through my podcast here called the Diamond Discussion, obviously, and it's right on our website. Okay. So, you can find us, the Diamond Discussion. You can find us online there, and on one of the tabs, you'll see online training program. You can kind of see what I do and just some of the instruction I give and just the in-depth meal planning and things of that nature, workouts and whatnot that I provide for my clients. But anyway, so some of you, if you know somebody who wants to take advantage of that or what have you, please send them my way. Be happy to do a little bit of an analysis with them first of all to see what that could look like, and if it makes sense to move forward, then we will. But regardless, what I've learned though, especially with my baseball guys here this winter, is the struggle that has come with a consistent backhand. Okay, and it may sound like something super simple to some of you. I feel like a lot of you out there, a lot of the ladies, really more than my guys. A lot of my softball players, man, their backhands are just smooth. You know what I mean? They look like, not being racist or anything like that, but I'm saying like the Dominican Republic, to me, in my opinion, produces some of the smoothest middle infielders out there. So I guess I'm being racist in a good way. I don't know what you want to call that, but my point is that that's a fact. Okay, that's a bare bones fact. And so what I've found is that when you are consistently working on anything, right, it has no choice but to grow as long as you're working on it properly. Okay. And so what I'll say is, in order to be able to get your backhand as smooth as some of those guys that are coming up to the majors from the DR and the islands, Cuba, you name it, right? You got to work on it. Okay. You got to do some of those simple things. And one of those things is focusing on your footwork. Okay. If your footwork is out of check, if it's off balance, right? If you're not getting to the ball in the proper fashion, with your feet, right? Your foot placement matters. All right. Your glove positioning matters because your footwork then leads to your body positioning, right? So if your feet get to the ball in the right manner, now you can properly position your body to field the ball and then be able to make that throw, obviously. Your glove positioning becomes more consistent and more fluid as you begin to field the ball and work your way, work the ball up into your getting ready to work to your throwing motion, right? So those are two keys, and obviously your hand-eye coordination. Okay, so do some hand-eye coordination exercises. That can be, whether it's juggling, whether if you can't, I can't juggle. Listen, guys. Side note, right? This guy, he made the juggle. It ticked me off. I took my daughter, my wife and I took my daughter to the library the other day, and they're doing like this little puppet show. And at the beginning of the puppet show, he's juggling, and he goes, "The best way to learn how to juggle is to start with one ball." And then of course he adds 2 and 3 and so on or whatever. But like I'm like, man, I wish I could juggle. So that may be like a little side quest that I'll learn. I'll probably have to come on the show here and show you guys that I'll learn how to juggle 10 years from now. Anyway, so the point is though, guys, is that you got to get the hand-eye coordination down. Okay, you got to make sure that you're sound with that. That's a fundamental skill that comes with baseball. And then obviously from there, your body, your footwork, all of that jazz. If we can be able to make all of that mesh and come together, then I thought we're putting ourselves in a good spot when it comes to properly fielding the backhand. And I think some drills I wrote down here that I've looked up that I've done in the past with some of my players is the wall drill. That's like the one of the most simple drills that I know of and that I've used personally as well. And you just boom, you get a few feet away from the wall, maybe preferably a brick wall or whatever you have available to you. It can be with a tennis ball. It can be barehanded action, right? Tossing it off the wall, working the bare hand action with a tennis ball, and then eventually with a baseball. If you have like some of those yellow dimple balls, that would go in a pitching machine. Those bounce a lot better off of a brick wall or bounce better off of anything better than a baseball itself would. But whatever you have, use what you got, and but at least play wall ball a little bit and work on that fluidity, work on that feeling. And the main thing you want to make sure you're not doing is attacking, right? We don't want to attack the ball, right? We want to receive, right? We want to receive. We want to be graceful with it. We want to be light with that, and then we want to, come up firing from there, obviously. So the wall ball is one. If you've got a teammate, a partner, a coach, mom, dad, cousin, uncle, whomever, buddy down the street, have him just roll some balls to you, right? Roll them to your backhand there so that you can feel what that crouch feels like, how your knees need to feel, right? Your whole body. Because here's the thing, we talk about some things being as simple and as easy as riding a bike. Well, in my opinion, backhanding the ball is about the same, barring a bad hop, right? Bad hops are going to happen. Hopefully, your face is out of the way too on some of those things, but bad hops are part of the game. Those aside, a simple ground ball that you get that's staying on the ground the whole time, we should be able to backhand those bad boys no problem. And we're coming up, firing the ball to whatever bag we're heading to. So I think working on that, and then also having, if you've got a partner or somebody who can effectively hit ground balls to your left and to your right, have them randomly work the backhand in so that you're not anticipating every time, right? So now you're kind of working based off of reaction. You're working based off of instinct. Of course, do the first two drills to begin with, and then now let's work some random action in there and see where our instincts take us, because you'll find out pretty quickly is what am I doing naturally, right? When it's random, you do what you do naturally without thinking about it, and hopefully over time you'll find that the natural instinct is to be smooth with it, be nice and crisp, get that glove positioning down. Your footwork is just flawless, right? And you look like a smooth, middle infielder or even a corner infielder, doesn't matter. So anyway, guys, I hope that those few tips there on backhanding will help you. If that's irrelevant information to you, maybe you can pass it on to somebody else. Pass it on to a teammate that you know that struggles with backhands. Because here's the thing: everybody's heading to their ball seasons right now, whether it's school ball, travel ball, whatever. Okay, if it can't make you better today, then it can make your teammate better, which in turns makes the entire team better. Okay, so use it or share it, whatever you want to do, but hopefully it's of value to you and or those around you that you can share it with. So with that being said, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to come back here with you, answer some open book segment questions, and give you my thought you should know moment before we wrap this show up. Be right back, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the show, and let's jump into these open book segment questions directly from you. I'm going to start with the first one right here from Chris O. All right, Chris, what's up, brother? Hope you're doing well. Simple question: how can I get on the pod? All right, so how can you get on the podcast with me? I've got an incredible lineup of guests all throughout the year. I'm going to kind of spread them out a little bit more than I have in the past, but man, so listen. Just email me, text me, call me, DM me, whatever. And but here's the thing, I like to bring on guests, man, who have a story to tell, and it doesn't have to be a fancy story, right? It doesn't have to be a story that's going to be shock and awe and all that jazz. But people who are willing to add some value to our listeners, okay? Because we have been, I've been blessed, man. I've been blessed, and but the show has really done a lot better than my expectations, I would say. So we're a little over a year in, and our shows right now are averaging right about 9,000 viewers or listeners per episode, and so because of that, we're starting to really drum up some cool things, and I've got some different ideas that I'm gonna maybe roll out here now that the audience has grown some more. Like I said earlier about my website, I'm going to be a little bit more specific about that next episode, and hopefully be able to share with you guys some additional content. We're going to possibly throw a Patreon in there, and some of you have asked about that too. So anyway, we've got some cool things rolling out. But all that to say, if you want to join the show, I am not closed off to anybody joining the show. I just, again, as long as you've got some value to add, and or maybe listen, maybe your story is something that you feel like can resonate with someone else. But regardless, if it adds value to other people, then it's worth it to me. So that's how you can join the pod. Just hit me up and let's have a conversation about what it is that you want to talk about and share. All right. Next question is from Rob J. So Rob asks, "What's been the most surprising thing you've learned as a coach?" And I thought about this one for a second. I don't really know like the most surprising thing. I couldn't really think about that very well. But I will say that one of the critical things that I've learned, and one of the most impressive things, intriguing, I guess, is how much compound effort is important. Like how much that truly does matter. And as a ball player, I knew that, right? I had an idea of that and I understood it. Did I execute it always? No. But as a coach, like I really value consistency. Like that is something that the players that I rave about the most that I've gotten the opportunity to coach, it's the players who were the most consistent. And I'm not going to name drop right now, but I'm name dropping in my mind. I won't tell you, but like there are some out there who I'm like, man, they just they were consistently clutch, or they were consistently on time for practice, or they were, consistently being a leader for the teammates that particular teammate needed. Like they were consistently an extension of our coaching staff. They consistently got on base, right? They consistently made the right play. They consistently put their teammates in a great position to look good and to succeed, right? So it's just consistency comes though from compound effort. And what I mean by that is, I'm a financial services guy, and we talk about compound interest all the time when it comes to growing our money. And I believe the same thing applies to our efforts on the ball field, right? Whether it's during the wintertime, right, when it's cold outside and you don't have an indoor facility to go to, but you're still going out there and you're busting your butt and you're grinding it out, or it's the dead heat of the summer and you don't have a lot of water, but you still got to go out and get reps because you want to grow and you want to get better, right? Regardless of the extremes of the weather or the conditions that you may be a part of, or the lack of resources or equipment or whatever, like people just working hard is something that I find of an extreme value, and I guess it's just surprising how much I love that. I love that people are truly committing to the craft, and it's a beautiful thing because that is the standard, right? That's the standard for the diamond sports, is those who fully commit to the craft and those who give full out effort, they rise to the top. It's very difficult to beat people who are doing this thing every day, 5, 6 days a week, who are saying, hey, listen, I'm devoting this, I'm sacrificing this bucket of stuff so that I can be the best version of a baseball player that I can possibly be, or the best version of a softball player that I can possibly be. Like it's beautiful. So anyway, compound effort, that would be the answer to that. Hopefully, that's acceptable to you, Rob. And then the last question here is from John M. And John says, "Why don't you umpire baseball? And has being a basketball ref helped you be a better baseball coach?" Okay, so that's a 2-for-1. All right, so why don't I umpire baseball? I actually did for a year in college, and it was cold. So there's your answer. I really don't like the cold. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like I hate it playing in the cold, and our baseball season obviously starts in February, and so like it's cold for like 2 months of the season, which I hate. So am I gonna go out there and make a couple $100 or whatever umpires get paid to stay in the cold? That sounds good. The money sounds okay or whatever, but like it's not worth it to me to be coached. So that's one reason. Another reason, as I really haven't had time, because I coach softball. I don't have time to referee or umpire any sports outside of basketball season. So that includes baseball and obviously softball since I coach it. So anyway, it's cold and I don't have time. That's my friendly answer. Okay, so um, being a basketball ref helping me be a better baseball coach. So yes, I would say so. I think just officiating sports in general, it's not necessarily just basketball, but like being a sports official, referee, umpire, whatever, uh, it's helped me be a better coach because I kind of understand uh, different sides of the coin. Like the me as a I've refereed tonight, and so as a referee, like my agenda is totally different than the agenda of the coach, as it should be, right? Like my agenda is to make sure that we go into this ball game as a crew, myself and my two partners, and we work together to make sure we call a fair game. We try to get those players on and off the floor safely, ourselves on and off the floor safely, right? And we make sure that it can be a safe, fun, fair environment. That's my mission. Okay. And there's a lot of other intricacies that go into that, but bare bones, that is the mission. Okay. And that's it. That's kind of the extent, right? Now, of course, the coaches want to make sure that it's fair and that it's safe for their players, but they're also trying to win the game. And there's a lot of other intricacies that go into that alone, like just by winning, gameplay, planning and all that jazz. So all that to say, it gives me that opportunity to kind of see, here's what a biased outlook looks like as a coach, right? And then here's what an unbiased outlook. Because I give two craps who wins. Like especially since I just moved to Nashville, like I don't know anybody, right? Like I know people back in Georgia, and like I would referee. I refereed the last couple of seasons. I refereed a couple of games at the high school that I went to. Well, does that mean I'm going to give them calls that they don't deserve? No, not in any form or fashion, right? Because that would make me not a good official or not good at my craft, right? If I'm doing things that are not with integrity, right? So again, my point is that here in Nashville, I know nobody, and so I give two flips. Like sometimes I walk away not even remembering who the school names were. I just knew like one team was wearing black and one was wearing white, and that's kind of it, right? So anyway, all that to say, that's what that looks like from a referee standpoint for me, and I think it's really helped me as a coach because I get to see two sides of the coin, and I get an opportunity to know how far I can push my limits as a coach. But I also see the game in a lot of different uh, realms, if you will. And it's I won't die. I've talked about that a little bit on our previous show, a couple of seasons back. But long story short, yes, it does help me, and I'm grateful that I get to experience coaching and officiating as well. Now that I'm a former player too. So anyway, hope that answers that, man. I think that's it, guys. I think that's about the end of our show. So I'm gonna give you our thought you should know moment. I hope you enjoyed this thus far today, and I hope you'll go back and watch previous episodes because we're coming up on episode number 50 here in a few weeks, believe it or not, which is pretty wild to think about. So I'm gonna have a big celebration. I'll do some giveaways, and we'll have some other fun stuff there for our what would you call that, like bicentennial, or I don't know. Whatever. We'll call it something. Okay. Anyway. All right. My thought you should know moment though. Okay. Thought you should know moment. All right. Listen. I read this thing the other day, and it basically said like if you read 20 pages a day, you'll get to 30 books a year. Or if you run 1 mile a day, that's 365 miles in a year. If you save $10 a day, that's $3,650 per year. And the moral of that story, simply, all right, the moral of those points, rather, is that getting 1% better is better than nothing, right? And it's also better than getting 50% better at the end of the year or by the end of the year, right? So I would say this, guys, don't underestimate getting 1% better. Seriously, if you do, and again, I think this kind of coincides with what I just mentioned about my love for compound effort, because I believe that what you do daily can truly maximize your lifestyle. It can maximize your game as a ball player, and it can maximize who you are. All right, and so those habits, man, that you develop matter. And one thing that I know for certain that a really great business partner, former business partner of mine, taught me is that what you treat casually will become a casualty. And I know that if there's anything that I care about, I don't want to treat it casually. I want to give it full effort, and I want that effort to compound over and over and over again so that it does not become a casualty, right? I want it to be the best it can possibly be, and I want to know that I gave it my best efforts along the way to success. So, with that being said, guys, that is my thought you should know moment, and that is the end of our show. So, with that being said, please let absolutely everything you do be done in love, because at the end of the day, that is truly what makes this beautiful world go round. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another show, another episode. I hope I'll catch you next week. Take care.